Warning, you are leaving your safe space. Hello everyone, just doing what will hopefully be a fairly short, like current events update video, I guess. Over the last weekend I actually had recorded a 45-minute rant where I was going over just different stuff that had been happening. Jordan Peterson debates, just the entire media issue in general, or just the way the media conducts itself, which I'll get into a little bit in this video. But I want to start with the caravan in Central America. There were some of the people got to the United States border, realized they couldn't get in, and turned around and left. And to these people, I would like to say thank you for being reasonable, thoughtful people. We already have people in this country that are not being taken care of. If we continue to just let people come in and people just continue to flood in, you're just going to be adding yourself to that list of people that are homeless or hungry or can't find a job. Their kids are struggling because you left everything that you had or whatever. Like I said, we already have people that are not being taken care of. Do you really want to try to come into this country and just be another person on that list? It doesn't make any sense to me anyway, but what the hell do I know? And then the other part of it is you want our country to respect and defend your rights as an individual, but you don't want to respect our country and the Constitution is the basis for the freedoms and individual liberty and autonomy that we enjoy in America. It all comes from the Constitution of the United States, which says we all have all the rights. There are certain things that we cannot do, which is infringing on other people's rights, which I will also get into in a couple of minutes. But if you want the Constitution to defend you, then you have to stand up for it as well. You have to be willing to defend the Constitution. And right now it's being attacked from all sides, not the least of which is the inside, meaning our own country. But again, to the people in the caravan that were reasonable and thoughtful people, I would like to say thank you. Now on to other news. The reason I'm doing another recording of this is after I did my original recording, in the following day or so when I was editing it, a story came out of my home state, Virginia. The West Point School Board has fired a high school French teacher following an ongoing transgender controversy issue at the school. Peter Vlaming, a teacher within the school system for 7 years, was fired from his position Thursday night after a 5.5-hour public hearing with the school board. Vlaming's attorney fought the superintendent's recommendation to dismiss the teacher based on claims of insubordination and repeated refusal to comply with directives made by WPPS, West Point Public Schools administrators. Miracles can happen, but I was prepared that this might be the outcome, Vlaming said after the decision. Students and community members lined the hallways of the school, some in support for Vlaming, others in support for the transgender student. Vlaming's attorney argued his client has rights as a teacher. And that's why I'm spotlighting this story, because it really drives the point home that I've been trying to make. People like Jordan Peterson and all of the free speech advocates, all the channels, Some Black Guy, the people that I've recommended in my previous videos, Sargon of Akkad, which I'll get into probably right after this, because he has actually been banned from Patreon for something that didn't even happen on his Patreon account. It had nothing to do with his Patreon account, but he was banned from Patreon. But I mean, you see it everywhere: Facebook, Twitter. They say they want total freedom for people, but they always pick a side and try to devoice or deplatform anybody that doesn't. It's not that they don't agree with the person they're deplatforming, it's that the person they're deplatforming doesn't agree with them, and that's why they're getting rid of them. And that's the real problem in the world today. And again, this story out of West Point, Virginia, I think really drives it home. There's a lot of insanity is what it is. Students and community, already did that. Tolerance is a two-way street, said Sean Voiles, Vlaming's attorney. My client respects this student's rights. He is simply asking that his rights be respected as well. The student is absolutely free to identify as the student pleases. The school board adopted one viewpoint and required Mr. Vlaming, at the cost of his job, to repeat that ideology, repeat that viewpoint. That's where it's compelled speech. That's where it violates his First Amendment right he still retains as a public employee. This issue came to a crux during a virtual reality exercise back in October, where Vlaming said he called out, "Don't let her walk into the wall," as the transgender student walked in that direction. Vlaming claimed it was a slip of the tongue. So originally reading that sentence, I was like, how the hell is this a problem? He's helping to keep the student from running into the wall because she's wearing a VR headset. I mean, how is that a bad thing? But apparently it's that he called her her. I guess it's a female student trying to become a male student. I don't know. Vlaming says he often uses the students' names in the classroom and not pronouns. He says he used the student's new name, but says out of good conscience and faith he could not use the male pronouns. That is a tweet from Karina Bolster at NBC 12. So not only was he fired for not agreeing with the student, but he was actually willing to compromise and use the name that she chose. I'm totally happy to use the new name, Vlaming said. I'm happy to avoid female pronouns and not to offend because I'm not here to provoke. But I can't refer to a female as a male and a male as a female in good conscience and faith. That was in fact discriminatory because all the other students were being used pronouns, but this student was not being used pronouns, Superintendent Laura Abel testified. How did this superintendent get through college? That was in fact discriminatory because all the other students were being used pronouns. I hope that was a typo and that the superintendent of this school system does not actually speak this way, because I am not a college graduate and I speak better than this. So if there are people that are less educated, less capable than myself of teaching students, I would rather they not be in charge of teaching students. On October 31st, Vlaming was placed on paid administrative leave after West Point High School Principal John Hotchman said Vlaming did not obey his directive to use the proper identity pronouns for the student, he, him, etc. An online petition supporting Vlaming titled "Don't Terminate Mr. Vlaming" states the student's parents complained to the principal, and Vlaming was asked to sign a paper stating he wouldn't refer to the student as a female. An investigation was launched by the superintendent, who moved forward with the recommendation to fire Vlaming. Voiles said his client was sent a letter November 6th by Abel stating, "My expectation is that you will treat the student the same as other male students, including using his preferred name and using male pronouns to refer to him. If you refuse to comply with this directive, or if you have any further instances of using female pronouns or of avoiding the use of male pronouns to refer to the student, it will be considered insubordination and will result in termination of your employment." Laming reportedly declined to fully comply with the school division's demand. That discrimination then leads to creating a hostile learning environment. Abel testified. Again, that's the superintendent. The policy speaks not one word about pronoun usage, Voiles said. Voiles being the teacher's attorney. There is absolutely nothing in the policy, as the witnesses admitted from the school division, that speaks to that issue, which makes that policy so problematic that it leaves it up to the individual for interpretation. Voiles, another tweet from Karina Bolster at NBC 12. Voiles asked if there is a procedure in the handbook with how to specifically deal with transgender student issues. Abel testifies there's not, but based on her investigation, she believes termination is in the best interest. And it goes on and on. The school board releases their statements, trying to spin the story, blah, blah, blah. But again, I think this really crystallizes the problem, what's really at the bottom of the problems that are going on, especially in America. We had a teacher fired because he didn't let a student get their way. Is this really what we have come to? A child throws a tantrum and ruins a person's life. Is this really what we want to happen? If the children are so smart, if the children have it all figured out, why are they going to school in the first place? Why aren't they the teachers? Why are the adults in charge? How are the kids going to grow up? We used to tell people when they didn't get their way and they threw a fit, we used to tell them to grow the hell up. So when are they supposed to grow up now? Who's going to teach them to grow up? Every time a kid throws a fit and they don't get their way, now the adults have to bend over backwards and coddle them, and in the case of this teacher, actually lose your job. You know, this teacher probably has a house, he probably has a family, he probably has kids of his own that he's trying to take care of, and now he doesn't have a job because some kid threw a fucking temper tantrum. Is this really the world that we want to live in? Is it? I mean, it seems to me that the baby boomers, people that were my parents' generation, are looking at people that would be my kids' generation. I don't have kids, but people that would be in my kids' generation, their grandkids, and they're basically trying to coddle them. They're telling them that us, the Gen Xers, are trying to oppress them and keep them from living their life and being free, and they're not trying to give us any say in the matter. And it's frustrating as fuck, and I'm really tired of it, and it needs to stop. This is insanity. People are getting fired because of children's temper tantrums. Does everyone understand that? That's what this story means. Think about that. Think about that anytime you see this social justice warriors. Again, I go back to the gays versus the bakers. Yes, you have a right to have a cake for your gay wedding. No, you don't have a right to force me to bake you one. Just because you can have one doesn't mean that someone else has to make it for you. The fact that you can have one just means you can carry your ass to your own fucking stove, your own oven, and make your own goddamn cake. You can make your own fucking dick cake or little dick cupcakes or however you want to do it at your wedding. Do I believe in gay marriage? I think marriage is between a man and a woman. However, should gay people be able to enter into some legally equivalent union? Absolutely. You can file married on your taxes. You know, under the eyes of the law, a guy can be married to another guy, and a woman could be together with another woman. Again, the word marriage to me is between a man and a woman. It is the union of a man and a woman to start a family, because only a man with a woman can have kids. You know, two guys can't have kids together. That's not how it works. That's why most people are heterosexual, because that's actually how the species continues to survive through more than one generation. So again, yes, you have the right to have a cake for your gay union ceremony, whatever you want to call it. You can call it marriage if you want. That doesn't mean that I have to call it marriage. You can have your cakes, but you can't force anyone to make the cake for you. No one is keeping you from having a cake just because they tell you they're not going to make you a cake. You can still have your fucking cake. Instead of going to the court and trying to sue this bakery for discrimination, you could have probably baked 100 cakes. But you won't fucking do it because you're too goddamn lazy and you want to throw a temper tantrum. So then you're going to put a bakery out of business because you didn't get your fucking way. Just like this kid at the West Point High School. So now let's get to Sargon of Akkad being banned from Patreon. I will defer you to his video titled "You Cannot Trust Patreon." I encourage everyone to watch that. The speech that Tim Cook gives, he talks about the Deus Ex Machina concept. He's standing up there basically saying that people should be free to live the way he thinks they should live, essentially, is what he's saying in the speech. He thinks that because he is a tech guru, CEO person, that he should be in charge of what the technology does, how we should use it, how we should live. You know, he wants the technology to push people in a certain direction. If you ask me, if you really want to help people with technology, start trying to automate agriculture and housing. Those are the only two things that people need. You need food, you need shelter. Everything else is a convenience. Everything else is a want. You don't need anything else. If you have your food and your shelter taken care of, you don't have to work. You can pursue your intellectual interests. You could just do whatever you want because your basic needs are taken care of. You need food more than anything else because food gives you energy. If you don't have energy, you can't do anything. That's how it works. You take in calories and then you burn them to do stuff. You need shelter because Mother Nature will fuck you up. And yes, clothes are shelter for your body so you can go outside. Like right now in Virginia, we just had a snowstorm over the weekend. It's been in the lower 20s to 30s. If you go outside in a loincloth, you're probably not going to make it very long. But again, if you're working in the technology fields, stop fucking doing electric and automated cars. Stop fucking with cars. Stop doing all that dumb shit. The phones, the watches, all that stupid shit. Get on the agriculture. We need to be able to distribute food and shelter to people. Fuck your phones, fuck shoes, fuck fashion. None of that shit matters. None of that shit matters. Does everyone understand that? Food, shelter. That's what everyone needs. If we want to bring on the utopia, that would be a good place to start. Make sure everybody's fed and sheltered. You know, without those two things, people can't survive. Now, The last thing I guess for this video is going to be the media. A couple things with the media. And I will use the Jordan Peterson media tour as an example because he has done an excellent job of calling the people on their bullshit, which is precisely why he's fighting for free speech. Free speech is the right to call people on their bullshit and then discuss it and try to come up with a solution to whatever the problem might be. So if you have kept up with it or watched it at all, if you've watched any two Jordan Peterson interviews, you probably realize that they're pretty much exactly the same. And that's not Jordan Peterson's fault. It's not his fault that he has to keep giving similar answers over and over because people keep asking the same questions over and over and over and over again. We cannot even break past the surface level. You know, the whole point of discussing things is to try to get to the very bottom of the problem so that you can actually fix it and have a foundation for a solution. But if you try to put a solution on top of a problem, it's not going to work because the problem's just going to shake it off and your solution is going to go out the window. It's not going to work. You have to get to the bottom of the problem. You can't just be stuck on the surface level. Every single interview that Jordan Peterson has been in, because why men? Why are so many men watching you? Why is it all men? I'll tell you why. Because Jordan Peterson is the only person encouraging men. Everybody else that is in the public eye is saying, oh, women this, we need to empower women, we need to empower women. Well, we've empowered women. Women are empowered. Women can do whatever they want. They can pursue anything that a man can pursue. I mean, there are no restrictions. There are no limits. There are no gates. There's no barriers. There are women in higher positions than me. Okay? I mean, do we get the point? I mean, we have politicians, which is about the highest position that you can have, that are females, telling other females that they're oppressed and that they can't make it in the world because of men. Well, if that's the case, and it's been getting better, which means it was worse when you got into the position. How did you get into the position? How does that make any sense to anyone? How does anyone follow this crap? How does Hillary Clinton have any support whatsoever? I don't understand it. Even after she called half of the nation deplorable, simply because they didn't take her side. Again, people are throwing tantrums and using that as an excuse to force people to do things. It is ridiculous. It is insanity. It is insane. We're letting children run things. We need to stop it. Again, I try to promote things that are going on that are good, so I go back to Travis Rudolph. I encourage everyone to follow Travis Rudolph. I did a video spotlighting him where there was a couple of FSU football players went to a middle school and had lunch, and Travis Rudolph found a kid sitting at a lunch table by himself, went and sat down and had lunch with him. Basically made that kid into a star at his school. You know, but the media doesn't, the media for a week will cover a typo that Donald Trump made in a tweet. He made a typo on the word coverage. It's like, these people are so smart. How can you not look at it and realize when someone made a typo? I do it. I'm not even a college graduate. Like I said before, I think, I have to deal with college graduates on a regular basis. These are the people that are in the quote-unquote project manager and superintendent roles. But I'm listening to psychology lectures and stuff on my phone while I'm at work, and the college graduates don't even know what the hell's going on. They're asking me questions about it. I'm like, bro, I didn't even go to college. You're the one that went to college. You tell me what's going on. I don't understand what people are learning in college. Yet somehow, if I don't have a college degree, I'm basically shut out of 95% of jobs. It's either I can stay where I'm at in construction, or I can move down and work as a cashier at McDonald's or something. I don't. The world is just upside down at the moment. We need to rediscover the common values that it is that we share with each other. We need to stop bickering over this stupid bullshit and start working together again to try to move civilization forward instead of backwards. Back like the media thing, they'll cover a typo in a tweet for 2 weeks, but they only give the Travis Rudolph story 5 minutes. They just run the spot once, and it's like at 6:25 right before the weather, and then you never see the story again. And then you look at these interviews, like the Jordan Peterson interview at Skavlan, but they actually have fake grass under the chairs in the studio. I mean, seriously, how superficial are these people? Another thing they do that I don't like is they attribute Jordan Peterson's success to his YouTube viewership. It's like he wasn't successful until he became famous on YouTube. They just ignore the fact that he had a job as a professor at Harvard and the University of Toronto, both very prominent schools. I'm sure everyone has heard of Harvard. Everybody knows about Harvard. Not only that, he had his own clinical practice, and he's been doing research. He's written books before 12 Rules for Life. He was already successful. But they attribute, he wasn't successful until he became a YouTube star, and now he can afford, a boat or something. That's one of the biggest problems with the world. Everybody just wants stuff. Everybody wants to have stuff. Nobody wants to do stuff. Everybody just wants everything handed to them. They just want to get it. Nobody wants to do anything for it. Nobody wants to put any effort in. Oh man, that reminds me. I just saw an ad this morning for Essay Bot. So now you can get through college and never even have to come up with your own ideas. All you have to do is come up with a topic. You just put the topic into EssayBot. It will find you the relevant documentation and cite it for you and paraphrase the information that it finds. So you don't even have to write your own paper. All you have to do is put in a topic and you get it. You don't have to do any of the work. You don't have to do anything. You turn your paper in, you get an A, and you get a fucking college degree. What the fuck, people?